This is the second portion of the video. I would be basically giving the link to the first portion of this particular video on palmistry on this particular hand in my description down below. She is a lady, her age is 47, and I'm going to basically start ahead of whatever it shows on her hand. Before I start, I would request you to press the bell icon on YouTube and don't miss another update. Now we straight away head to this particular hand image. There are few things that are really different in her hand, and one by one I'm going to be describing. First, I'm going to take up the lifeline. See, normally people think that the money line tells everything about the money, and I do agree to some extent, but it's not that money line would tell everything about the money. Money line can also tell about the relationships, and it can tell about other aspects as well. It is common sense. If you are financially well off, everything is likely to be good. So same case regarding the line of life. Even lifeline can tell about money and possessions or other aspects of your health. So any line that moves from the lifeline upward, like these, pointing towards a finger, these are considered to be good lines. These lines are considered to be good lines. These are basically meaning gains in one life. It basically means something is coming to you, some gains or something or the other. Whichever finger they point to, these lines, they might point to the Jupiter. Jupiter is for position, and Saturn is basically for money. So money is likely to be coming for her during this particular period, and this could be approximately the age of 40s. That's the approximate age. But at the same time, any line that moves downward, these things, these lines that you see downward, and these lines are much more common. These lines are very common, and these lines point towards the mount of moon. Normally what happens is, this is the old age of a person. This is the old age of the person. So in old age, it's common sense that the health basically deteriorates. There could be something or the other, small or big, in a person's life that might affect that particular person. So lines that are originating from the lifeline and pointing towards the mount of moon are basically health loss or wealth loss. So but at the same time, the person should not get alarmed that everything is going to be bad. Do not think in this particular fashion, because there could be few lines that are excellent in your hand. So let us take a look at those particular lines. Normally, any line going towards the sun mount is called the sun line. Some people call it the luck line. Some people call it the career line. I call it the career line. And there are timings to it. This is the headline. So this intersection is basically age 35. The intersection of the heart line and the sun line is age. This age is approximately 53. So this is after the age of 53. From this portion to this portion, the age is 35 to 53. This portion, this is just for explanation purpose. And this particular portion that you see, that this is before the age of 35. You would notice that there is no as such line of sun during this particular period. You would notice that the lines are not, even if they are there, these are very weak and comparatively very weak lines. So they are not present. Although this particular line that we see coming from the mount of moon, this could be the sun line. So this is before the age of 35. So a line that is coming from the mount of moon and pointing towards the sun area, it means benefit coming to this particular person from staying far away from their birthplace. Like a foreign country, even if they don't stay in the foreign country, even if they are in association with foreigners, even that basically brings much more benefit. And even male member can be father, brother, it could be son, any one of them could benefit. Or in foreigners, it could be male, female, anybody that could benefit this particular person, and more name and fame comes to this particular person. So having a strong line of sun is considered to be good, because it basically means that the person is energizing their work, and it is the intensity, like the sun intensity, same as the intensity of your work. If you intensify your work, the chances for success increases. But at the same time, you would notice that this is comparatively weaker line. So this is before the age of 35 for 1 or 2 years, and then till 36, 37. Then we find from the age 35 to this age is 53. So a new formation of the sun line develops out here. There's a comparatively weaker line also that you see. So weak lines are basically lines of doubts. And doubts do not bring success. Doubts basically destroy everything. So having a weak line of sun means having doubts, like not energizing your work. This is what basically it means. A stronger line that you see, and starting somewhere in the middle of the head and the heart line. So this age is approximately 44. So in the initial period, the line is not so strong, but somewhere around the age of 46, 47, that's when the line intensifies. And because the line is much more clear out here, deep and clear, just notice that the line is much more deeper and clearer. It means more like it's like something like the person knows what they want and they're energizing their work, and that's the reason why they're getting huge amount of benefits out of their work as well. You would notice that there's a branch just after the age of 53. This one branch is pointing towards the mount of Saturn, and Saturn is basically for money. So this is a good aspect. Another line is coming and kind of pointing towards the mount of Sun and going somewhere in the middle of the Sun and the Mercury finger. Sun is basically your career, your brilliance, and basically it means risk-taking abilities and your career also. And Mercury is your skills. So it's a combination of these two things that the benefits come to this particular person. Towards the end, you would notice that these lines are kind of branching out. So branching off the line towards the end and pointing towards the finger, and if it is deep and clear, then these lines are considered to be good, because basically it's having a wider coverage area on the finger. It's like, imagine something like from the fingers, like few rays are penetrating or energy is penetrating, whatever you can basically imagine, those things are penetrating and they're entering the person's palm. And if just under the fingers you find a V or a Y, V is not for victory out here, V is just, I'm just telling you for your informational purpose, it is a good sign. Why it is a good sign? Because those energies that are penetrating are getting struck in between out here, this V or a Y. And it's like getting accumulated. A huge amount of accumulation is taking place. So this particular portion where the V formed is basically the period when maximum benefits are likely to come to that particular person. So remember what I just told you just before I was talking about the sunline. I was talking about the person's, the lady's lifeline, and these branches over the lifeline, I had said these are basically loss of health or loss of wealth. But because the person has got an excellent line of sun, so the chances basically decreases. But at the same time, some amount of loss might take place, just a small amount might take place. At the same time, these lines that I have interpreted to you, these branches over the lifeline pointing towards the mount of moon, they might not necessarily be purely loss. It could be sometimes you're giving something back to the society, or you are giving something to your children, or to a particular cause you basically greatly care about. So you're basically shedding your weight or shedding your money and giving it to somebody else. It could be for a good cause, or it could be just to your relations or anybody. Basically it could be anybody. There's another meaning to these particular lines apart from just losses. Sometimes what also happens is basically moon is the area of travel. Moon is basically the area of travel. So the lifeline that is kind of pointing towards the amount of moon is kind of the person desire for travel increases, and the person desire for, and the age is approximately 55 or so. This is this is the time I would say. So the desire for travel basically increases, and the person could get restless. So wherever the person travels to, even there the person might not feel comfortable, and they would want to basically move on to something else and else, and they would keep on moving. So this is another aspect. It is also said that travel is the biggest educator, and the lines from the lifeline that are moving towards the Mount of Moon, it means that at this juncture what happens is that a new kind of a thought process develops. So because travel educates, so that is a reason the perception of life basically changes. Another aspect I need to add out here is that these branches over the lifeline that you see out here, I have said these could be losses, but at the same time there could be a line of protection as well. So you would notice that this is the area of Mars. This is the Mars negative area. This is just the name. Do not think it's negative in any way, because this is the area of aggression, fire, and you need to have aggression and fire in order to be successful. So if there are some lines that are running parallel to your lifeline, this is the lifeline, and they're running parallel to your lifeline, like these lines, these are called the Mars line. Mars is a red planet. Red means anger, aggression, and fire. So there would be anger, aggression, and fire, and these are the lines of protection as well. It is something like an armor around you. You get protected. You would notice that okay, I'll explain to you these lines in a little bit different way. Lifeline, imagine this is your car, or this is your engine. You can call it your car, or this is your engine. This area is the area of your fuel. Venus is the area of your fuel. This is the area of your desires, and this is basically the area of your fire. Mars is the area of fire. Okay, now what happens is that that these lines that are running parallel, these are protection lines, but at the same time lines that are crossing like this horizontally and touching your lifeline, this is something like you are traveling in your car, and another scooter, cycle, truck, train, bus, or something is coming and striking your car out here. So this area becomes a problem area. These lines can extend even further. They might touch your headline. So headline, if they touch your headline, it basically means that the coming of that mental kind of a problem. If they touch your heart line, emotional problem. If they touch your money line, they tell about the financial problem. So these kind of things takes place. So you notice that there are few strong lines. See, weaker lines like these are of no meaning, but stronger lines means bigger impact. So this portion of the impact has already basically happened. That is basically the past. Now we are looking for the future. So in the future, you would notice that these few lines that are coming like this, striking out here after the age of 55, then another strong line that is coming and striking, then another strong line that is coming and basically not touching, but it is basically vanishing. But at the same time, when you notice these lines that are running parallel, what they do is they are basically slowing down the impact of this particular car that is coming. So these are basically roadblocks. These lines are basically roadblocks. So the impact on you is going to get reduced. So as it is, this is the protection line, and the impact is going to reduce. So the effect is going to be comparatively less in this particular person's case. So this is another aspect to look for. Then there are few different kind of lines. I would try to interpret them, and rest I would, while we would talk, I would try to get inputs from you so that I can alter my reading as well. Now we come to, this is the lifeline. So in the initial years of the lifeline, the line is not so perfect. So the clearer the line, the more productive the years are during those particular years. Then we notice that there's a branch that is kind of is happening on the lifeline. There's a strong branch that is leaning downwards and pointing towards the Mount of Moon. Generally, I would say that this is not generally good for health purposes, and more like the person needs to be more might have been more careful, or let me explain to you in a little bit different way. Imagine this particular lifeline to be something like a jute rope. Imagine this is just a jute rope, and this is different age out here. Like out here it's 18, then 20, 22, 25. So this particular, so what happens is, if the rope opens, imagine a string of the rope opens and it's going something like this. So what happens is that weakness comes during this particular period. So it's very early in life that some health issues might have come about. I'm not very sure about it, but they might have come about. Protection line is there, so the person was protected, but at the same time, and this could have been something major as well, and it could be like it might have affected the lower portion of one's body. So it could be that as well. In the earlier portion, also on the headline, you would notice that there's a branch kind of a thing. That is, one branch is coming from the mount of Mars. So Mars, basically aggression. So some wrong decisions could also have been taken place at an early age, and this early age is before the age of 35, because this portion of the headline is before the age of 35. So approximately somewhere around the age of 27 or so. That's the approximate age, I would say. And one more thing I need to add out here, once we look at the hand, if you would notice that the Mercury finger is comparatively short. It's not even reaching the top line of the sun finger. This is the sun finger. I could also be wrong, because sometimes the people who take the images, they take it in the wrong way. So that's the reason why probably the finger might be reaching till here, but I'm just giving you the interpretation of if this particular Mercury finger is just reaching somewhere till here or even here. So Mercury finger is the finger of communication, technical skills, business skills, all these kind of skills. Book says that this finger should be extremely long. Like crossing over or touching this particular line of the sun finger is comparatively, this finger is considered to be long. But let us consider this finger to be short. So if a person has got a short Mercury finger, so what happens is that that they would be able to communicate. This is my practically, these are not in the books, but what my practical says, that I am basically interpreting. So if a person has got a short Mercury finger, so the person would be able to communicate with thousands of people at a time in a very good way, and they would be able to communicate very easily with them. But when it comes to their near and dear ones, this is where the distance basically increases. Initially, the gap is just 5 feet, 2 feet, 3 feet, 5 feet. Then it increases to 10 feet, then 100 meters. So what happens is that distance is created between the near and dear ones. There is some gap there basically which develops. So this gap needs to be bridged. You would notice that bridges are normally made by government, and government have all the resources, so they have that capacity to build bridges. But a private person cannot do this particular thing. So it's if you feel that distance is getting created, so be more careful and try to bridge the gap as early as possible, and that would be more fruitful for you. And near and dear ones are something like in the initial years, the parents, then brother, sister, then as the life goes on, the other relationships as well. So it's not that the other person is wrong, it's just that the habit of creating bridges is not there. Like they create distance between their near and dear ones. So this is one aspect. As far as the money line goes, money line is also originating on the mount of moon. This is the mount of moon. This is coming from here. This is going something like, so there's a difference between the line that is branching out and moving towards the amount of moon, and this is basically the money line. There could be a reverse as well. Let's imagine that this is not the line I have mentioned. This is not basically the branch from the lifeline. It could be the reverse, that this is the money line and going deep and going towards the lifeline and pointing towards the Mount of Mars. So if this is the case, then the person, basically whatever the person makes, it gets like lost, and this is all happening before the age of 35. So money line going towards the Mount of Moon is considered to be bad because the person burns their money. Mars is fire, so your money is getting burned. Try to understand, Mars is not bad for money, but your money line going towards the Mount of Mars is basically bad. The other part is, I would say this is not a good sign. But let us take that this is the lifeline and a branch is going on, which I have already explained to you that this is not a good sign. This is loss of health or loss of wealth during that early period of one's life. Now we take the other money line. This is the other money line that we talk about. This is starting on the Mount of Moon, so it's an excellent line. But it also ends before the age of 35, somewhere till at the age of 33, 34, it ends. But there are other lines of money as well that we see out here. This is another money line. This too is running somewhere on the Mount of Moon and basically going forward and basically moving ahead. By the age of 35, there's some problem out here, and then there's ladder like out here. So many changes might have taken place. Again, the money line is starting somewhere at the age of 44, and then moving forward as it touches 53, again few changes. So after the age of 53, you would notice that the changes are again there. So there are going to be many different changes that might take place in her life during that particular period I have mentioned. But it's going to be towards a positive, because apart from having a good money line, see why we call this is a good money line, because it is plain and simple. The more the line that is plain and simple, the better it is considered to be. Like this particular line that you see, the line of skill, which I have already explained in my previous video. So same case is regarding the money line. If it is simple, it is considered to be the best. And specifically, very specifically, under the Mount of Saturn, you should have least amount of lines. The lesser the lines, the better it is considered to be regarding money matters. More the lines, the worse off it is. So out here you would notice that there's another line that is pointing. So all these are at different ages that they're pointing. So sometimes these lines are double running, double, triple. So there could be 2 or 3 sources of income. But in my practical experience, I've seen that even if you have 2 lines, 3 lines, it could be just the person might have a single source of income. When a person has got double lines, sometimes it is benefit coming to this particular person from their partner as well. So this is one aspect. You notice that there's a small triangle like formation. It's a combination of the sun line I have already mentioned, the Mercury line, the skill line, and the headline, your thought process line. So all of these are basically considered to be extremely good indications. A triangle on the headline with the combination of Mercury, either money line or the sun line, any one of them, these things bring benefit. If we look closely, you would notice that there are few squares on the money line. These are the money line. There are few squares out here. Squares are basically preservation, and squares also mean property. So these are basically properties and all which is going to take place in her life. In her case, the finger of Saturn is also comparatively longer. Saturn is basically a fatalistic planet, and Saturn is a very slow moving planet. So it's better not to have a Saturn finger to be very long, because what it does, it basically decreases the speed of Saturn. It is something like more effect of Saturn coming to this particular person. So it's better to have a comparatively shorter Saturn finger. That is considered to be good. And out here it's a little bit long. Saturn is also for sadness. Saturn is also for responsibility, wisdom, all these things. So I've seen in few cases that the person feels that there are delays because Saturn is moving at a slower pace, so the feeling of delay is there. Probably because her hand shows many good aspects, that's the reason why she might not experience it, but generally I've seen that Saturn fingers should be a little bit shorter. Before I end my video, I would just take a look at the left hand as well. The left hand and right hand, the difference is that left has the hand of past, right has the hand of present, left is passive hand, right is active hand. This is basically the main differentiation. And in her left hand also the same indications show up as what they were showing in the as they were showing up in the right hand. Same kind of strong Mars line that we see. This is a good indication. And although this area is a little bit depressed, so this also covers your stomach and all, and the fire. So fire can get misused because out here there are too many lines. So this is the area of stomach, and the more maximum heat is in the stomach. So this is Mars. This is Mars negative. This is planes of Mars, and this is positive Mars. So the center of the palm is basically for your temper. So if there are too many lines over this particular area, so your temper goes off in the wrong direction. This area that you see of Jupiter, it's padded, so it means understanding of politics, understanding of religion, and understanding of being a believer. And this is basically these people are good at administering. They know how things work and they know how to organize things. So this is another positive aspect that we see out here. And I just take a look out here. Same as we had seen in the left hand also. During the early period, you would notice of the headline that there's a backward line pointing towards the mount of just give me one moment. You would notice that there's a backward movement line, so this is for honor, and the headline is dual during this particular early period from early age to the age of 35. Then there's an upward line pointing towards Mercury, which is a good sign. Again, there's a branch pointing upward, again a good sign. Towards the end also of on the headline, again an upward sign, again a good sign. So all these are, headline is showing good, but there's a jumble of too many lines. I would have said that if there were lesser lines, I would have considered to be much better. But even then, because the sun line and other lines are deep and clear, and Mercury line is deep and clear, that is the reason why I would consider it to be a positive hand. And I'll just end my video out here. Thank you for watching. Bye and take care. Thanks.